forward to your announcement on cadet training and what that's all going to mean.
Thank you.
I mean, that's obviously an issue for, keeping Australian people employed and making them competent. These days, a lot of kids can't add up and divide like we used to. We used to fly with an aluminium, offset the wind and all that. Things have changed. Kids rely more on technology, computers and calculators and things. Is there a risk that airline flying and pilot training and pilot skills are becoming more reliant on the plane flying itself, and when the plane, for some reason, decides it doesn't want to fly itself, that we just have a little amber light flashing in terms of the skill of the pilot to pick that up in time? And there are numerous incidents, stick shaker incidents, are things that we seem to be dealing with all the time. Have you got any comments to make on the emphasis that's required on the mind, the body and the visual coordination of flying a plane versus relying on what the instrument's telling you?
It's a very good question, and the technology improvements on aircraft are obviously welcomed and everything that comes with it. But I just wonder whether maybe head of training Captain Stewart might be able to give you a better answer than perhaps I can in terms of.
I guess from our point of view, I mean, we endorse the new technologies that come on board. We've got a new fleet of Boeing 737s coming that are more technologically advanced than what we currently operate. To I guess address those issues of what would be called automation complacency that come about from these new technologies, we have non-technical skills. As Rick mentioned before, we've got a very robust non-technical skills department and training department that look at exactly those issues. We've also got within our training management department, we've got training managers that sit on various boards and panels, international panels such as the ICAO Training and Quality Initiative and the FAA Automation Working Group. And within those, we I guess, bring those industry's best practice in addressing those type of complacency issues and the automation issues into our training practices. We also don't rely solely on automation, and we have a lot of exercises within our current training program that go back to basic flying skills of redundancy and loss of various automatic systems.
The example, and by the way, modern tractors with satellite guidance, if you come to a rock in the paddock and you've got to pull around the rock with a 60-foot cedar or something, sometimes the computer gets confused and you actually have to figure it out for yourself and forget the satellite. And I wondered the same with flying, but at a very basic level, I mean, in a simulator, and you've no doubt picked this up in your cadet training program, we're receiving evidence of, a system where pilots are trained and go through 200 or 300 hours, 350 hours. They're not actually trained or qualified to fly a Cessna 150, but they are an A320. In basic things like just how far is the wingtip off the bus sort of thing, the eye, mind and physical coordination, do you see any long-term problems with that? Or
look, I agree that currently the aviation industry aircraft are developing at a rate that we're slowly catching up with, and the ability to train pilots to safely operate those aircraft is always going to change as well. And I think the point is that we engage quite heavily with the industry that develops these technologies. We also place a high emphasis on what I guess is called, stick and rudder skills. When we train our pilots, we have extended line training programs that cover off all the facets of operating a larger type aircraft compared to what you were saying before, say a Cessna 152 or something like that.
Senator, can I just jump in and just add one thing there? I think one of the things that Stu touched on before that we probably shouldn't forget is that modern technology has actually improved aviation safety in leaps and bounds, and you can actually see step changes in accident rates through Western airliners from sort of the jet age onwards, I guess. As we head towards what would have been considered accident rates that were in the margins compared to the gross accident rates that in the early days of the jet age. We're still making step changes as we actually introduce new technology. So a good example is the enhanced ground proximity warning system, which gives pilots information about the possible impact with terrain, whereas previous iterations of that were reactive devices that just told you, you're about to hit a hill. Whereas the new one actually gives you some notice that there is a hill ahead. You need to be aware that there's a hill ahead, and that as a technology change has driven the aeroplane to be safer. It doesn't mean that that we actually want our flight crew to put themselves into a position where they're relying on the safety of the enhanced systems, but it certainly, by operating a fleet of aeroplanes, and I think our oldest aeroplane is 7 years old at the moment.
Almost.
Oh, so yeah. We're actually operating the very leading edge of aircraft as far as technology goes. So from a safety point of view, certainly the stick and rudder part of it, if you can turn all of the automation off and actually and still behave like a pilot. And unlike some airlines which have made mandatory the use of automation in certain circumstances, we still, and it has always been our position in that regard. There are times that automation is most useful, but there are other times where automation actually doesn't improve or enhance safety, and we actually have not gone out of our way to drive our flight crew to the mandatory use of automation that some other airlines have actually have headed towards.
I just wondered, I'll go to Senator Sell, how a 350-hour cadet might have got on landing in the Hudson River. Senator Sell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Mr Borghetti, I take it in your opening statement after my question on notice that the company did come back to me Virgin having any cadet schemes, and your question on the answer on notice clearly identified that no, there wasn't, but there was something at Virgin Atlantic in 1998, but nothing else. So you have announced, and we're appreciative of the announcement early, that you are going to conduct, Virgin is going to conduct cadet training schemes?
Yeah, so can I perhaps comment on that? The reason why the previous answer was no was because this is an initiative that I had planned as part of the Game Change program for later on this year. And whilst I'd had initial very high-level discussions, in fact with the Executive Chair of SkyWest, it was at the early stages and I wasn't prepared to go public with it, but in view of this, I thought, let's go public with it. But,
no, that's good. Okay, that's great. And I do accept that. So, are you able to tell us when the scheme will start?
I can't go into too much detail because Jeff, the Executive Chair of... No, gee, thank you. Because we're still formulating it, as I said, at a very high level, and only even as late as only a few days ago I spoke to Jeff about it. The intention is sometime in 2012, earlier rather than later. But it's going to take us, a good 12 months to get this right, because we want to get it right. We don't just want to get something out there. And the other thing I have to say is we have got so many things happening in the airline at the moment that there is only so much you can digest and do properly. So 2012 really is the year.
I appreciate your answer, and I appreciate that you need to have more high-profile talks. And if it's not possible, I fully understand. Would you have a rough idea? Would you be able to share with this committee how many numbers you're talking about?
Not at this stage, because it's going to depend. Well, there are two numbers, but it's going to depend on, I suppose best way of putting it is the level of cooperation between us and a partner. But it can be significant.
Okay, and is that Virgin Blue or?
That's the Virgin Blue group,
okay.
And I think it's as far as the cadet scheme is concerned, in fact, probably most things, we're seeing Virgin Blue as more and more one company. In other words, it cuts across the group as much as possible.
So that's V Australia as well?
V Australia, absolutely, as well. Yes.
And Senator, if I could just add, coming from the States where there's not a lot of cadet programs, I'm very interested in the cadet program and process over here. I really look at it as an investment.
Great.
And it's a long-term investment. And with our pilot turnover at less than 1%, it's not an urgency. it's more of an investment and for our future and obviously to make sure we have a pipeline of skilled, trained pilots for the future.
And look, I would agree with you coming from a trucking background, and my commitment to training and safety is unquestionable. Now, I did also receive on notice, and I don't have to table the document because you did provide this to the committee, and I asked where the pilots come from, and I understand very clearly the names of where most of the pilots come from for the aeroplane that they are in command of. But you have a list or a line here that says other. So whoever provided that, what is other? It's just for the, for the purposes of Hansard, it talks about all the other companies.
Yeah, that includes other airlines, I guess, external to Australia, Hong Kong Airlines, Air Vanuatu, Air Pacific. I mean, we could probably break that down further for you, but it's the other airlines external to Australia.
So, yeah, non-Australian airlines, okay. And I notice that you do recruit rather heavily, which is good, from the regional airlines. Does anyone from Qantas... Sorry?
Regional airlines don't think so.
Okay. All right. Sorry, we'll be careful on my choosing of my words. Only because I've got the figure in front of me. Does anyone come from Qantas across the Virgin?
Qantas Link, Senator. So the regional part
not
of
the link,
Qantas.
but
Not the main. You mean the main line, don't you?
I mean the main line. Yeah.
I had 8 years at Qantas.
Yeah, but you're now the chief pilot.
That's correct.
What about are there any pilots flying for Virgin, for the Virgin family that have come from Qantas?
There aren't that many. I would think that there would probably be a couple of us.
Just that it's not in the listing here. I thought you'd be proud if you'd poached a few from Qantas. Well, poach is a word I use.
To your point before, other also includes all other possible sources of recruitment. So
sorry, Mr. Howell. 2 minutes ago, other meant airlines that aren't based in Australia.
No. Other includes all of the other airlines aside from the ones that we've listed there. I think.
Other includes international airlines such as we've had people, as I said, from Hong Kong Airlines, from Air Pacific, Air Vanuatu. I don't think we've.
I've got all that.
So just to be clear, Senator, if I may, other includes any other airline from anywhere that is only a small. It's only a small number from each. So to your direct point on Qantas, the answer to that is no. There aren't many that come from Qantas to Virgin Blue, with the exception of, obviously, our chief pilot and a couple.
Thank you, Mr. Bulghetti, because with me, I like the straight, simple answers.
I'm
I
a simple guy
appreciate
too.
that. So what we've established, I think, how is not many? How many is not many? I mean, I've got figures here, Skytrans 1, Brindabella 1. Yeah. You can't go much lower than 1.
No, that's true. Look, we can give you a breakdown of that. We'll take it on notice and send you a list. That's very simple to do. So no issue.
Good, okay, because it goes to my line of questioning. I want to establish why pilots aren't coming across from Qantas to Virgin. But I can safely then, would you agree with me that large commercial airlines such as yours should be investing in training young pilots rather than just poaching or...
Yes.
Okay, other pilots from other companies. That's good. And where else would you expect to source your pilots from here onwards?
Well, just 2 points on that. First of all, Virgin Blue has been now flying for just over 10 years, and it started with, if I remember correctly, about 2 aeroplanes or 4 aeroplanes, and it has grown, obviously, very quickly to almost 90 aeroplanes today. But that rate of growth that you've seen over the last 10 years is not going to continue exponentially. And
I'm from Perth. Sorry, I've just got this big smile on my face because it's going crazy. But sorry, going. The aviation industry in WA is exploding. But
yeah, it has.
Well, I shouldn't use that word. Employment in the aviation industry.
It's growing.
It's growing.
And clearly we've grown very quickly. But we're now at a stage of our evolution, and by a stage I mean the next, say, 3 years to 4 years, where we are consolidating our position rather than continually growing. You know, there comes a point in your growth cycle of any business where you need to slow the growth, make sure you're positioned in the right sector of the market, stabilise as much as possible the commercial aspects or whatever aspects of the business and move on. So the first point is the need for pilots, given our low attrition rate, is not going to be to the same degree as we've seen in the last 10 years because our capacity growth is simply not going to grow
Contagious, isn't it?
It is at that same level. So that's the first point. The second point is, given that we already announced, even though we weren't going to, the arrangement with potentially with